I was counseling a client recently. We'll call her Becky. And she had a wonderful job and she was regionally managing something and she loved her job. And then the head honchos called her up and they Skyped her and they said, you know what? We have seen how fantastic you're doing here and we want to promote you. We want to put you up. We want you to go to the next level. She was very comfortable at the level she was at. She had fantastic relationships within the town that she was in. She really loved her position, but her ego had always told her, you know what, you should be doing that. And then they stroked her ego and they said, you should be doing that. And she called me very upset because she's been doing it for a year. And we talked about the transition and I advised her otherwise. I said, I think you're killing it where you are, but I understand the need for growth. I just didn't think at that time she was ready. And she called me to confirm that recently and said, I've been giving it a try. I pushed past everybody's advice. I did this because they said I could and I thought I could. And where I was now number one previously in my past position, I now have not hit those numbers at all. And it is just destroying my morale and my ego. Fascinating enough. The ego tricked her into it and then is taking a beating because she's not hitting what she thought she could. And this is something she will come out of, and we came up with an action plan and she's going to work it out for another 3 months and figure out what her heart's really telling her to do. But what I took away from that was she shifted jobs because she thought she should have something more. Someone around her told her, hey, this should be what you're doing. In her spirit, when we spoke initially, she said, I really love my people. I love my job. They come to my house. We have pool parties. It's amazing. But someone said to her, absolutely, go to the next level. Do the next thing because you're capable of doing the next thing. But it wasn't her time. Was she capable? Is she managing it? Is she still at the job? Of course, she's there. And she will figure out a way to make that work. But it was incongruent with her true, authentic calling at that moment. She was excellent where she was, and now she's struggling, and her words were, with being mediocre where she's at. That is something to think about. It makes me, and I know, guys, I talk about her so much, but makes me think about Oprah and her transition out of being an incredible talk show host and having the world at her feet to starting her own network, OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. And she went through a real rough patch, and we'd never seen that happen with her because she was excellent where she was at. But she felt it was time for a transition. She felt that she was able to go to the next level. And it doesn't mean that she wasn't able, because she's clearly done it. But we all remember reading the media stories and hearing her out of her own mouth, her concern about not having it easy. I remember an interview with her where she said, this has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I have been successful at everything that I've touched. Everything has not come easy, but it's come. And I have been at the top of my pack. She was a leader in that. Remember Donahue and Sally Jesse Raphael and Geraldo. So many talk show hosts that they said Oprah could never beat. She eradicated the playing field. She absolutely smashed some of those shows. So much so that some of them went off of the air because they couldn't compete with her numbers. And she always said, what I did was I competed with myself. Instead of worrying about what the ratings said, I worried about what my heart said. When Jerry Springer was having great popularity with doing salacious shows, she said she went left and started doing teaching shows. And that is how she was excellent with daily practice in her craft. But when she transitioned into the OWN network, it was a rough patch. Things didn't go easy for her. People, she said, didn't want to see her succeed because she had been successful at so many things. There was a bit of schadenfreude at play where people were wanting to see her fail, and she expressed what that felt like to her. And I believe it was a moment in her life, an intersection with her destiny that she had to have in order to know what it feels like not to always win, because that is humbling, but that also teaches us what we're really made of. but she transitioned into something, and maybe it wasn't the time, or maybe it was, but at that moment it wasn't easy because she was excellent where she was, and then she had to go someplace else. And while we are transitioning, there will be those kind of growing pains and those moments of adjustment. It goes against the world's motto that we're always to be achieving, to really take a moment and step back and say, what is right for me? Like my client, Becky, who knew when we spoke a year ago, I just don't know, Monette, I really love my job. But she kept saying to me, but I feel like I should be doing this. And everybody says I should. Be careful of the shoulds in your life. Should is an imposition. What feels right to you? People can recommend things. They can have great ideas about the next direction that you should go in. But what feels right to you is really the thing. The world teaches us that we are to be achievers. We are always to be go, achieve, especially here in this Western culture in America. But our achievement is to be in our own lane, not what someone else's lane is, not what someone else should be doing. It is better to be a great sergeant than an average general. And by that I mean, sometimes we are put in positions and we are to be fantastic at that position. And to transition, and I'm not discouraging transition, but I want to, and we will get into this momentarily, talk about the process of transitioning. Just because maybe there is a calling in you to be a fantastic general, but you must be a good steward of being an amazing sergeant first. That is so important. When you step into a position that is not really created for you, there will be a pull in your spirit or on the relationship or the job because you will be caught acting. You will be caught posturing. You will be caught behaving as though you are, and you are actually not. And it is not too hard to figure out who the fraud is and who the authentic person is. And that brings us back quickly to Tommy. Is Tommy a fraud? No, I wouldn't say that she is. She's a great talent. I've said it several times. I mean it. But what happened is she was caught acting. And that's what I'm talking about here. She believed a different thing than the views she espoused. And she was caught acting, and she was warned about it before it happened because people could see, if you can't maintain this, you will be found out, and people will be very unhappy when you're found out. So in all things that you do, listeners, find out what your North Star is. Find out what your core is and stick to it. And don't waver to play to a base, because it will find you being fraudulent, and it will leave you without a grounding. It's so important to have your grounding. It's important for us and for you to see you as you really are called to be. And it's important not to fulfill a false order. So often we need to see who you are, and we would see who you would like to be. Sometimes we're seeing who you would like to be. We often project, and we have idols, and that's okay. That is okay to have an idol. It's okay to have a role model. It's okay to have someone that you look up to, but you got to find out, what is your purpose? What are you here for? Something that I've seen and I've experienced myself is that I have definitely wanted to become like someone because I've been infatuated with somebody that's been in their own lane and killing it. They've just been doing amazing. They're having great success. And I say, wow, why can't I be like them? Why can't my life be like that? But they're in their lane. And sometimes you can forsake what it is, the giftings that have been put inside of you, to be a copycat of a great original. Yikes, guys. Who wants to be a copycat of a great original? I want to be original. So while I may look up to many people and admire them, I realized over the years that being Monette and being the best Monette that I could be is all that I can do. It's the best that I can do. That means that I have my own nuances and my own experiences that I bring to any situation that are different than my idols, just like they had their own. When I leave, I want my legacy to be that I was amazing at being Monette. Because Oprah's job's already taken. She did a pretty good job at it. And Maya Angelou's job's already taken. And she knocked it out of the park. I can only be me. I don't put myself in that company, but I can say, wow, I love these women and I respect what they've done. I can only be me, and you can only be you. Be the best original you. It's important that you focus on that. Don't get caught up in trying to embody a life that God did not call you to. We all have our own measure. And that is something that is an invaluable lesson. I've learned throughout the years that God, the universe, will only promote you to the level of tolerance of your pain. And I know that sounds crazy. Like, well, why do we got to talk about pain, Monette? Again, we got to talk about pain. There's a part of me that's very pragmatic. I really care about our ascension and our evolution, but I want us to understand that it doesn't come without a process. You will not be promoted to an area that you're not designed to withstand the weight or the pressure. And that's why it's so important to operate within your measure. If you go to a place and you are not designed to tolerate that, you will quickly crumble under the weight of the pressure. We often see people say, I want that life. I want this. I heard a famous musician saying people are jealous of his wife and everything. And he said, can you be selling out Madison Square Garden? You want to be my wife? Well, this is what she deals with, is 80,000 women screaming at me every night. And he said, some of you can't stand that your husband works with 2 other women in the office. So how could you want to be my wife who is able to be secure in our relationship when I make women very happy on a nightly basis? And I thought, what a profound piece of wisdom there. We all have a measure that we're given, and can you withstand the weight of it? You may want the life of somebody else, and that's why that's dangerous to be wanting that, because you don't know what comes with it, what the pains are. We look at marriages, married for 50, 60 years, and we say, oh, I want that. I certainly have been that person. I want that. Even though I've, been a little sketchy on the idea of what marriage is and should it be and all of that. But there are moments when you get a little pitter patter in your heart and you say you want that. But you don't know how many times those people didn't want to be in that same house together. And you don't know how hard it was to maybe lose one of their children. And you don't know what it felt like when one of the in-laws was making their life hell, or what it felt like to have great joys and successes. But all those great joys and successes don't come without the weight of an interaction, of sharing your lifetime with one person. So it's nice to look at that lovely couple holding hands, really wrapped and capturing each other's attention, and say, I want that. But there's a cost. There's a measure that they had to live up to in order to embody that destiny. You have to be able to design to withstand the weight or the pressure of what life will present you. And that's why you have to operate in your own measure. So the question that I now want to pose to you is, what is your own measure? Who are you really supposed to be? We've been talking about that a lot. By now, I would imagine, from the feedback I've been getting, many of you have a more clear idea of what that is, of who you really are supposed to be. And that's why I wanted to bring you this new food today, this freshly prepared word, because I know that we get stuck in, okay, that's lovely and that's all fantastical, Monette, but now that I've figured out who I'm supposed to be, what's the next step? And let me tell you, I think I've been saying it, the next step is small steps, daily repeated steps. That sounds all well and good, right? Let me give you an example. TD Jakes, who